Good morning. Today we're going to try to tackle the second video of our 3-video series about the construction of this Walipini greenhouse. The first video we talked about the benefits and the drawbacks of a Walipini style greenhouse. In this video we're going to be talking about the construction details of how I constructed it. So I'm just going to spew out some information here. And here we go. Here's what we did. We made this greenhouse and I cut off the topsoil and we made a big pile. And so we went down an average of about 6 feet deep. On that side it was 8 feet. On this side it was a couple of feet because the ground was sloping. And we leveled it out of here. And we took out all the subsoil and made a big pile. And then we made the stone wall in here. We just got all the boulders from within about 200 feet here because we were blessed with a lot of rocks. And we made this wall. So this big wall on the north side behind me here, it's 10 feet tall. And then we backfilled behind the wall an average of 4 feet high. But that's because it hits ground level up there. Over here it's 10 feet high outside. And then we built the trusses up here. Now these are, I call them a modified parallel truss, a vaulted parallel truss. There's different names for kind of what we did. Some people would call it a scissor truss, except they're parallel. They don't scissors, but they're similar to that. But they're very strong. They would hold the snow load that we could get in this country. And then we just made it out of recycled steel. We got it's a drill pipe from the oil fields. Over here we have the 3-foot sidewall, and that rolls up. And then over here on this side, on the top of the stone wall, that rolls up. So on the south side it's a 3-foot high wall to let the air in. And then over here on the north side it's a 6-foot roll up to let the hot air out. So we have plenty of ventilation. And the vents need to go pretty much the full length of your greenhouse to have proper ventilation. The misters are on that stone wall, and they're just a 1/4 inch line. All they are is a 1/4 inch around line, and then every 2 feet we put a little mister in. And then we just turn that on in the summer, and you can have that on a timer, so it's only running like about 8 hours a day during the heat of the day. And that keeps the rocks wet so that they're not collecting the very hot sun that's penetrating down in the summertime. And that helps to keep it from frying and getting too hot in here. The other thing is the propagation house. I've got my propagation house here, and this is where we grow all of our transplants for the entire year. But every month of the year I'm planting in that. But that is a big part of the construction of this, is having a small propagation area where the temperatures are a little bit more stable than out here, where it's getting really cold in the winter time. So the entire square footage in here of the growing space is 2,500 square feet. Now that includes 6 beds, the rock wall, the stone walls. So that's what I'm including. I am taking out this year, this spring, we're in the process right now of removing 2 of the walkways between beds 2 and beds 4. So 1, 2, 3, 4, and then there's 2 beds in between there. So I'm changing that, and that increases my square footage a little bit. So when I tell you 2,500 square feet, it includes those 2 walkways being gone. I'm just going to keep this one walkway and the walkway over there. And when we need to get into the middle of that garden area, we can just tiptoe in there. We don't walk in there very much anyway, and I just got to thinking, that's just wasted space. I could be growing there. South of the greenhouse, there's no dirt wall on that south side. So some people have argued with me and said, well, it's not really a Walipini. And if you feel that way, then you can call it something else. It's okay. And if it really frustrates you that I still call it a Walipini, maybe I can accommodate that and we'll just call it a solar greenhouse. That's okay too. But it is dug into the ground, so that's why I keep calling it a Walipini. But it's not dug in on all 4 sides. It's dug in on 3 sides. The long south side is not dug in. The east side is only 3 feet in. And then we have 10 feet down there. And then on the very end, the very back wall, it goes all the way up to the ridge line. So, you know, we're certainly gaining the solar sun that comes in, which is really great. And that's one of the main things about the construction, is the sun goes across at a low angle in the winter time, but that it still penetrates through, warms up the wall, and then we're down in the ground so that the earth is keeping it warm in here. Now when we do our next video about management, we'll talk more about the types of plants to grow in here, because we're not heating it and it can freeze in here in the winter, but that's good. That's okay. So we have the plant appropriate species for the time of year. The other thing, if I was going to build this again, I would seriously consider a ground source heat pump in here. We didn't do it the first time because it was a lot more money and we had a budget. So we thought, well, this will grow us food like this. And so this is the way we did it. But here's the thing. When we build this green, or I mean, if we wanted to in the future, it would be easy to add that in. We would just come through the north berm here, and we could dig down right between the poles. We wouldn't have to take any of the greenhouse apart. We just dig a trench right here, and then down on that end, and we would put our ground source pipes in the ground, and then blow air through those, or we could do a water one where we're pumping water. However we chose to use the ground source heat to warm it up in here. So that would be something we could do in the future if we decided to. The other thing is, the end wall down here, with those big boulders, we could make this greenhouse longer if we wanted to. So there's options that we have in the construction. We can expand, we can add things. But with building such a simple design in the first place, we have the opportunity to add these things on if we decided to. So that'd be pretty great and pretty awesome if that's what we decided to do. Let me just mention a couple of the construction details. We have giant boulders on the north wall. That is a retaining wall that is holding the dirt that's on the north side. A lot of that dirt, much of it, most of that dirt, I backfilled against it. But on the very end, we're just into the hill, because the hill was sloping down this way, we cut it this way, and so our 10-foot wall is at the normal ground level back there on the very end behind me. Over here, we were only in the ground a couple of feet, and so most of that height, we backfilled that in with our heavy machinery when we built the wall. And the way we built it is we would put down a row of rocks, and then I would backfill behind it, just dump in bucketfuls of dirt with the backhoe, and then I would take the bulldozer and drive back and forth and pack that in. And then we would put another layer of rocks on. Now when I put my first layer of rocks on, the rock would be here. The next layer of rocks was not on top of that rock, it was offset. And then the next one was not level, it was offset. So that rock, instead of that whole rock wall, instead of being square like this, 90 degrees, that rock wall is like this. So if the rock wall falls, it's going to fall back into the berm. There's no weak spot where it's going to fall inside here. So that wall should be there for 1,000 years, unless there's a major earthquake that changes everything. But that's the one principle that you want to follow. The whole wall goes that way. The other thing is, when you take one rock and you put another rock on it, this rock on the bottom, it's just like building a fireplace. If you've ever built a fireplace out of native stone, when you put a rock in, your rock that's on top should never be sloped like this, or this rock is falling off. If your top rock can fall off the wrong way, then that's bad. Our berm is on this side, so when I put the bottom rock in, it should be like this, so that it's sloping downward. Hopefully you can see what I'm doing with my hand. Let me grab a tray here. Here's a tray. We got these new trays, somebody gave them to me, I'm so excited. So pretend this is a rock, and this is level. If we put a level on here, it's level. It's okay to put another rock on top of this, but if it's like this, and I put a rock on here, it's gonna fall. And if this is the inside of my greenhouse, then the rock's gonna fall inside. So the principle to build out of native stone is to have your stone level, like this, this is falling down. It's ruining my video because that's tipping. But you have it level like this, or you tip it back so that when this rock is on here, it's naturally falling into the berm. That's okay, because it's going to go this way with the whole wall. And then when we stack each, so I'm reiterating what I already said. Let's say that this stone is here and it's sloping that way. Well, this stone, we would not have it even on this side. We would want to step it back so that it's still sloping down for the next rock, and then you have a step here. Now the steps can be small, but you do want to have those steps. So every stone you put in place, if it's going to fall naturally, you want it to fall into your retaining wall, not into your greenhouse. And that way, the entire wall will be falling that way. And then by stepping them back every time, then the whole wall falls that way. Because if you stack something up, nature will make it fall. So it's not an idea of building the pyramids in Egypt where it'll be there for thousands of years and never fall. We're not that precise in what we're doing. We're simply using mixed-matched shapes, and so we're going to stack those up so that they will fall that way, and that will make it strong because the backfilled dirt on the other side is holding it together, and as it settles, it will just settle down very strong and it'll never move. So that's pretty awesome. So that's how we have built the stone wall, and it's the same principle for the front of the greenhouse. The front of that greenhouse has massive boulders underneath it for a foundation, and then we started the wall, and it's about 6 feet wide. That's long, that's really wide. And at the very top peak, it's about 1 foot wide. So that entire stone wall where the door is, where we come in the door, is 6 feet wide, but you can't see the 6 feet because it's under the dirt. We backfilled on the outside, and so it's buried, but it makes a great big massive foundation on huge boulders. We dug way down, we put great big boulders in the ground that will never move, and then we started building our stone wall, and it came up, and it was a big pyramid shape all the way up. So that's how we built that. And then I did build the door by hand. We just used reclaimed lumber, and we just had some steel around. We bought some of the steel to do that, but it was just straps and some channel iron, and we put the door together. So that's pretty awesome. So hopefully this has shown you some of the important things about how we built this on a budget using reclaimed things. And if you have any questions about this, I can do follow-up videos. This is what I do. You are paying me as a Patreon member to answer your questions. You ask me your questions, I will answer them. If I get a lot of questions and I didn't answer your question, ask me again. I'm not promising to answer you the first time, but I've been pretty good. I think I've answered everybody's questions so far. But hopefully, as you watch these videos, you will be able to learn to have the best garden of your entire life. I love you guys. I appreciate you guys. Let me help you have the best garden ever. That's why I am here.